Okay, so have you ever felt that kind of like you're just stuck, you know, spinning your wheels all day, but never really like getting anywhere?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we're going to dive into today.
Sounds familiar.
We're going to be looking at this YouTube podcast that I found about planning productive day and, trying to be more efficient with our time.
Okay.
And it's with this time management expert named Emma.
Okay.
And she's talking to this guy named Alex who's just like super overwhelmed with life.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you just feel like there's so much to do and not enough time.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I really liked this podcast because it was a little different than some of the other stuff I've seen out there.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, it goes like a step further. Instead of just giving you those like generic tips and tricks,
Yeah.
it really gets into like the actual tools and techniques.
Oh, nice.
Like they talk about this thing called the Eisenhower Matrix. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have actually. It's a pretty cool way to figure out like what you should focus on.
Okay, so explain it to me because I feel like I get the idea, but then when I actually try to use it,
Yeah.
it all falls apart.
I think that happens to a lot of people.
Okay, good.
So basically, it's all about figuring out how urgent and how important your tasks are.
Okay.
So you can imagine it like you've got this like grid or a matrix,
Okay.
and you divide it into these like 4 boxes.
Okay.
You got like stuff that's urgent and important, stuff that's important but not urgent,
Okay.
and then urgent but not important, and then like the stuff that's neither.
Right. Right.
So let's say you have a big deadline coming up at work.
Yep.
That would be like right in that urgent and important box.
Absolutely. Got to get it done.
Exactly. But then maybe you also need to like schedule a dentist appointment.
Yes.
Now that's definitely important, for your health,
Right.
but it might not be super urgent.
Yeah, you can probably put it off for a bit.
Exactly. So that would go in that important but not urgent box.
Okay, I see. So it's about like really separating those things out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can kind of look at your list and be like, okay, what do I absolutely need to tackle right this second?
Right.
And what can I maybe plan for a little later?
I like that. I mean, seeing it visually, like in those boxes, I think would be really helpful for me.
Yeah. For a lot of people.
And it doesn't just have to be for work stuff, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you could use this for like personal goals and stuff too.
Oh, totally. Like think about those things you've been meaning to do.
Yeah.
Like start exercising.
Oh, yeah.
Or finally read that book that's been sitting on your shelf.
Oh, yeah.
Those are usually important, but not urgent.
Right.
So it's easy to just keep pushing them off.
Oh, that's me.
But if you put them on the matrix,
Yeah.
you can actually like make a plan to fit
Yeah.
them in.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of us get tripped up.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the urgent stuff
Yeah.
that we forget about those things that are actually important for like our well-being.
Totally.
And, the podcast also talked about morning routines, which is something I've struggled with. I've tried like every morning routine out there.
Yeah.
Nothing seems to stick.
What if you tried?
Oh my gosh. Like the getting up at 5 a.m. and like doing yoga and meditating and
Yeah.
drinking lemon water. I've tried it all.
So what do you think is the issue?
I don't know. I can never seem to keep it up,
I think the key is to figure out a routine that actually works for you.
Yeah.
And not just trying to copy what everyone else is doing.
Okay.
Like what works for some productivity guru might not work for you. So maybe for you, it's just about like starting your day with a cup of coffee and like looking over your to-do list.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's going for a quick walk
Yeah.
and then doing some stretches.
Okay.
The important thing is to like find something that makes you feel good
Yeah.
and like sets you up for a productive day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can try that. And I think something else that's important to talk about is technology
Oh, yeah.
because it's supposed to help us be more efficient.
Right.
But I feel like half the time it's just a distraction.
Oh, yeah. It's a total double-edged sword.
Right.
It can be amazing when you use it the right way,
Yeah.
but it can also be like a huge time suck.
Totally. And in the podcast, they talked about this idea of using technology intentionally.
Okay.
Like, what does that even mean?
So it means like being mindful of how you're using your devices.
Okay.
So instead of just like constantly checking your phone,
Right.
you might like turn off notifications
Yeah.
or set specific times to check email.
Okay.
You could even use those apps that block distracting websites.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those.
Yeah, so it's all about like making technology work for you
Yeah.
instead of the other way around.
And you know what I really liked about this podcast, too, was how it incorporated English vocabulary.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was so smart.
What do you mean?
Well, they were talking about all these productivity tips.
Yeah.
But they were also like slipping in new words and phrases.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it was like you were learning about productivity and improving your English at the same time.
I like that.
Yeah. It makes it much more engaging.
Totally. And it kind of ties into this whole idea of self-reflection,
Yeah.
which is something they emphasized a lot in the podcast.
What do you mean?
Well, it's about taking the time to think about your own productivity habits.
Yeah.
Like, what are your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to managing your time?
Oh, yeah.
Because a technique that works for one person
Right.
might not work for someone else.
So true.
You have to kind of figure out what works best for you.
Speaking of that, I remember trying the Pomodoro technique,
Oh, yeah.
and it was a disaster.
What is that?
It's where you work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I felt like I was constantly getting interrupted.
Yeah,
It totally messed up my flow.
I can see that.
But I know other people who love it.
Yeah.
So it's all about, like you said, figuring out what works for you.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot here, like morning routines,
Mhm.
the Eisenhower Matrix technology,
Yeah.
even mindfulness exercises.
We have.
What's like the main takeaway from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is to be intentional,
Okay.
to make conscious choices about how you're spending your time and energy
Okay.
instead of just like reacting to everything that comes your way.
So it's about like taking control.
Exactly.
I love that.
That's-
So like instead of letting the day control you,
Yeah,
you're the one in charge.
exactly.
So I guess the question now is for our listeners,
Okay.
what's one small change you can make tomorrow
Yeah.
to have a more productive day?
It doesn't have to be some big crazy thing. Maybe it's just setting aside 15 minutes
Okay.
to work on something without any distractions.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's planning your day the night before
Right.
so you feel more organized in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start.
Start small.
Yeah.
Build up from there.
Perfect.